welcome back with Kieran Maguire, a football finance expert from Liverpool University. If anybody out there thought you heard me say Kevin in part one, you completely imagined that. It's Kieran Maguire and James Gregg who rejoins us to round up everything else outside the football scene and partly the football scene that's going. And we have, by the way, got an incredible video clip later.
Brilliant. I look forward to seeing that. Yeah.
I think you might have seen, but it's certainly one of the most amazing misses and simultaneously one of the most amazing saves I have ever seen on a football field.
Fantastic.
And fortunately, we've got a little bit of treasure, buried treasure. We've got a video of that. After some serious stuff, we talked, well, it was quite heavy, part one, with Kieran, the Alan Partridge of football finance, by the way, as he self-titles himself.
Really?
Yeah.
That's two of you then, isn't it, in the same room?
Well, this is
You're not the football finance version.
We don't normally get seen in the same room, but here we are. No, I'm not the football finance version. Sheffield United, we did say it was chalk and cheese. We looked at the Owls. The Blades are a different animal entirely, with a lot of people involved behind the scenes. We talked about, and I don't think either of us, and you can't any more than I can, really comment on the power struggle between the two joint owners of the football club. I mean, that's just been through the court. A verdict is awaited. Goodness knows whether there'll be an appeal from whoever loses, and it could be ongoing indefinitely. But on the field, well, in fact, the entire club seems to be about one man and his dressing room, doesn't it, at Sheffield United?
Chris Wilder's done an amazing job. I think from a fan's perspective, it is the dream appointment. It's somebody that clearly loves the club. And I think what he has done very well is that he's spent money wisely. It's great having a benefactor who will give you millions and millions of pounds every year, but you can easily waste it. You've only got to look at some of the things which have happened at the likes of Chelsea. Chelsea fans are moaning about their recruitment, but Morata, Danny Drinkwater, Bakayoko, all these players where they're spending 30, 40, 50 million pounds, and they've just disappeared without trace. So what I think he's done very well is that he's managed to get that ethos within the dressing room of all for one and one for all, and that can carry you pretty far. Premier League's a different beast. I think he started to recruit, and he's going to recruit players who will probably be similar to the Sean Dyche model at Burnley. Burnley, I know how much Burnley pay their players. They're on a really tight pay band. You've got no superstars there. Everybody does pretty well out of it. They tend to be players who've had experience of lower league, Premier League, Championship as well. And they all stick together, and that can be enough to. If Sheffield United finish 17th or above, if they finish 17th next season, every Blades fan should be shouting for a statue of Chris Wilder to be put up, in my view.
Yeah, if they're not already.
Yeah.
We're going to go into some of the figures behind the scenes in a moment, and you can analyse them. How do you put a value on a football club there? We've got two owners battling. If it comes to one taking the other out or whatever, how difficult is it to value this? Because actually, this isn't the whole football club originally when they got together in terms of all the infrastructure and the hotel and the stadium and the training ground. This is this is just the value of the team on the field, essentially, which then was in League One and now is in the Premier League.
Well, there are various. I mean, I can get my big calculator out and bore people for hours on this. But one way of doing it is to say, well, what have similar clubs been sold for? So similar clubs in a similar position at the bottom of the Premier League, which realistically is what we're looking at. Another way is to say, well, how much cash do we think the club is going to generate? They're guaranteed £100 million this season from TV. They're guaranteed 2 years' worth of parachute payments. And if they stay up for a second season, that 2 years becomes 3. So you can work out, well, that's so much money coming in. And if we think they can bounce back to the Premier League, then as a lower part of the Premier League club, then they should be worth 150 million as a bare minimum. As a Championship club, realistically 30 to 40. That's the difference that we're talking about. What the judge decides is, we'll leave that to the judge and the lawyers and so on. It's of no interest to us, I don't think.
In terms of valuing the players on the field, which has gone up astronomically since Chris Wilder turned the squad over, I mean, you look at that, and you also look at, just bearing in mind the Championship in a minute, you and I were speaking before the show. I think the market's gone for the high-end fee-paying transfers below the Premier League. You know, a year ago you were getting 10 and 12, 15 million pounds being paid by clubs in the Championship. Not happening now, nowhere near, is it?
No, I think financial fair play has caught up with all of the clubs. And I think owners have also sort of realised, I've been spending 300 grand a week supporting this club, backing the manager. We ended up 8th. Why am I doing it? I'm getting pelters from the fans. So I think we're not reaching an age of austerity, but perhaps an age of common sense is finally reaching the Championship. But we talk about that, but the losses in 2018 were the highest ever. Clubs, as the whole, if you take a look at the whole of the Championship, that division paid out £106 in wages for every £100 that came through the front door. Yeah. That included parachute payments. That included the Sky TV deal. That included, all the other pennies coming. How are you going to pay for the floodlights? How are you going to pay to mow the grass? How are you going to pay for the physio equipment and so on? You're relying on either player sales, which we said, collapse. If player sales collapse, that's good and bad, because it means that selling clubs have got a problem now. They were previously banking up, we could get 8 million this year from player sales. Ironically,
for Sheffield Wednesday, at the time when they need to sell players, is the time when the market doesn't appear to be in their favour. To sell them, isn't it, really?
And they've got players on big contracts as well who won't move unless a new club, who's perhaps wanting to offer them less money, it matches what they're being paid at Hillsborough.
So Sheffield United have got out of the Championship in the nick of time, really, and it affords them not just a one-year opportunity, does it really? Because even if the worst happened and they were relegated, they're going to be, should be, financially a lot more secure. And if they, handle things sensibly, in a good position, to go back again, to come back up.
Yeah, and again, I take you back to Burnley a few years ago. They got promoted, they were a bit surprised. They didn't spend a lot of money on players, they didn't spend a lot of money on wages, and they came immediately back down to the Championship with a huge shed full of cash, and that allowed them to recruit Joey Barton and Ashley Barnes and some other players who were good, experienced pros, knew their way around that division, and they've gone up, and now they've established themselves. And remember, Burnley were in the Europa League a few months ago. Incredible achievement for a club which is operating on a really tight budget, relatively small crowd, certainly by Premier League standards, and you've got to give them a lot of credit. So I think the opportunities are there for Sheffield United, because they've not come up with a bunch of fancy Dans who are expecting crazy money.
Parachute payments are a matter of perspective and opinion. If you're in the Championship, they're an evil, and I really can't agree with them. This self-perpetuating thing of the Premier League's got going for itself, but if you're up there, it's fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
In your Sheffield United's position, very good. We're going to come to James for his roundup in a minute. We've got that incredible video. But first of all, let's just illustrate Sheffield United's finances such as we can with a few graphics. This shows the climb in wages, quite dramatic, as it had to be, from sort of 10 million in 2017 in a year up to the brink of 20.
Well, it shows the difference between League One and the Championship.
Yeah.
Sheffield Wednesday were top end of League One. They had a very competitive wage budget, because it's
Championship.
When they came up to the Championship, all of a sudden they're at the bottom end.
Yeah.
The average in the Championship's 27. Sheffield United paying 19.
Wow.
And then to get promoted on the back of that a season later, that just shows once again the extent of the achievement of Chris Wilder.
Absolutely.
It's incredible, that, isn't it? Yeah.
And so does player trading, even more graphically here. Let's just have a look at this. The dark line is sales. So you've got that going up to 8.5 million at the top. That's the dark line is sales. The light brown line is signings, and the blue line there is net cost. And again, Chris Wilder, what a job. Just interpret that, Kieran, better than I can.
Well, for your first season in the Championship, to generate money from the transfer market when you're having a step up is a good achievement. In terms of the money coming in, it's actually majorly sell-on fees in respect of Harry Maguire and Kyle Walker. Yes. And that takes us to June 2018. And now, of course, we've got the David Brooks money coming in from the sale to Bournemouth. Yeah. So for 2018-19, the club's done extremely well as well. So in terms of trading, you've got to give.
And there's another one coming in now for Che Adams as well.
£3 million. So it's about £3 million, something like that.
It is, sure. Yeah, I believe so.
And then obviously Luke Freeman is cost in the region of £5 million.
And that's almost taken care of.
So you've only eaten £2 million-ish into your budget, haven't you? It's incredible business, really.
Wages per income is what we're going to look at now. From 2012, when it was 124%, wages were 124% of income. So all the income and anything you could borrow was going out, down to 95% on the latest accounts, which is not ideal, but it's a lot better.
It's not ideal. I mean, UEFA have their red line. They say anything above 70% is a cause for concern. But then you go into the Championship in the EFL, and it's the clown car of football, because the step up from the Championship to the Premier League is so big. All sense goes out of the window, and you look at clubs in that division, and you say, well, actually, don't own a football club. What I've got here is a lottery ticket. And I've got a lottery ticket where the first prize is £100 million. Yes. And I've got a 1 in 8 chance of winning. 3 clubs going up over 20. Well, we've got 12.5% chance of winning. I'm actually prepared to lose money and pay the wages and pay for the transfer fees, which bring the wages up, of course, because this huge prize at the end of it. And it's not just a monetary prize, because if you look at the owners of both United and Wednesday, they want to be the people that my football club is hosting Manchester United or Liverpool or Chelsea, and the kudos that brings them could be back home. We've got overseas owners, or just for the locality. If you are a local owner, your stock is pretty high if you've managed to achieve that.
And Kevin McCabe, of course, is a local figure at Sheffield United.
Exactly.
And there aren't very many of them around, are there now?
No.
Not so many, that's for sure, maybe to the detriment of the game. We're going to, in fact, we're going to go into the real world with Rotherham United.
Yeah, do that, absolutely, yeah.
Caption before shall we do it now, just briefly, before James's roundup?
Yeah.
We're going into the real world. This is Rotherham United, okay? Now, I know that they've gone down, but their wages per income have gone down as well. Now, that's not intended as a criticism of what looks to be a very well-run club, but of course fans have a different perspective on this. What's your interpretation there?
Rotherham United are aiming to be in existence in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years' time. They've got an owner who has that as a plan. I think they've got a fan base who are realistic. They know that they are top end of League One, bottom end of Championship, yo-yo club. With a bit of luck, they'll recruit a few players into the youth team. They'll sell them on. They'll make some money from that regard, and get a couple of decent home draws in the cup as well. So I think that I know 1 or 2 Rotherham fans, and they say we're pretty happy with where we are. Nobody likes being relegated. It doesn't matter what division it is, but also we accept that if we do get into the Championship, we are going to be at the bottom end. We're not going to go for broke. We're not going to risk destroying the club by just gambling in 1 year. And I think you've got to give credit to the owners there.
Well, you've got your proverbial local businessman there as well in Tony Stewart, who's invested plenty, and to his eternal credit, taken Rotherham from a homeless football club to one that's got a proud a new stadium.
Yeah, brilliant stadium it is as well, Alan.
It is. It's wonderful to work in.
Yeah, it's great.
The New York Stadium is great. I always enjoy the facilities are good behind the scenes.
Likewise, yeah.
So what's going on?
To be fair, it's that sort of middle sort of part of the season. Pre-season is just starting. Twitter is a completely different story, isn't it? Because it's busy with transfer. When so and so signing, and I've heard this, and I've seen him at Bramall Lane. I've seen so and so down at Middlewood. Good grief, it's difficult to keep up with. However, Sheffield Wednesday, they're away in Portugal at the moment, on their sort of pre-season tour. Well, it's like a pre-season tour of a pre-season tour, because they have got another tour coming up in a few weeks' time. But preceding that, they've gone to sort of Steve Bruce's sort of second home, if you like, down on the Algarve. Quite impressive, actually. If you have a look on Dom Howson's Twitter account, he's posting loads of videos of good insight into kind of what they do on a pre-season tour. You know, it looks quite serious graft to me, Alan. I wouldn't fancy it too much.
It's quite a serious graft for the players. I'm not sure about Dom Howson. I don't think it's serious hard
Good
work
gig for Dom.
I think it's a good gig there.
It's a good gig.
It's a good gig for Steve Bruce as well, because I think he has got a holiday home there.
It is very
so where
close.
does he get his players to come to for pre-season training? Or come to Portugal?
What a clever man.
Yeah.
I like that.
Very
Good thinking. So their first pre-season match is against Lincoln City a week tomorrow. That's their first pre-season game. Elsewhere, Sheffield United, we've already touched on Luke Freeman, who became the Blades' record signing, first signing of the summer as well the other day. As well as that, they've got Ravel Morrison training with them at the moment. So I think that's sort of mixed opinions actually amongst Blades
Well,
fans.
it's a shot to nothing, isn't it? It's a shot to nothing. It's a very talented player.
On a free transfer as well.
What have you got to lose,
And I think, we've seen time and time again with these players with, the kind of attitude, if you like. So, Gary Medine, completely reformed character. The fans really bought into him. And who'd have thought that when that signing was announced? It was unbelievable, wasn't it?
He turned them around, didn't
Yeah,
he?
big time. Really
And
bought
I
into
think there's an influence, an infectious influence within that dressing room, that if you do get a questionable character or two, they can be moulded by the rest of the group.
I think so, yeah.
And especially bearing in mind, again, the nature of who we expect to be the next signing.
Yes.
Later tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Another leader.
Yeah, I mean, that may or may not be Phil Jagielka, of course, had lots of success at Sheffield United. He actually left 12 years ago today to sign for Everton from Sheffield United, and well, he might be back. We'll see about that over the coming days. I think he will as well, Alan. Yeah. I think they're just dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Sheffield United women, they're after their to improve on their 5th place finish in the Women's Super League Championship. They've bolstered their ranks already. Katie Wilkinson has signed from them. She's formerly a London B, and Naomi Hartley has also joined as well. She's a familiar face to Sheffield United ladies fans because she spent the latter part of the season on loan from Manchester United. She's now on a permanent as well. So Carla Ward, very busy. Of course, Carla spent a couple of weeks out in France with the Lionesses as well prior to the start of their exit from the World Cup. So Carla's had a very busy summer indeed. Elsewhere, away from football, rugby league. We've talked about the Sheffield Eagles on this programme. They started off the season like a house on fire. They were in the top 2 for the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. They've sort of faded away slightly, but they're still very much in the mix for a top 4 finish in the Championship. The 6th at the moment. They play 4th placed York City tomorrow night at the Olympic Legacy Park. Tough week as well for them because they've got Dewsbury also at home the week after. And I think those 2 results, depending on how they go, could really shape their season. So crucial couple of weeks for Mark Aston's men as well. Also tomorrow night as well is Tommy Frank. Now, if you don't know Tommy Frank, he is a boxer from Sheffield. He's going places. He's the current Commonwealth Super Flyweight boxing champion. He's fighting at Ponds Forge tomorrow night. It was meant to be the first defence of that belt that he won back just before Christmas. However, visa complication meant that his original opponent couldn't come over and fight. So they're getting a replacement, but the replacement is John Chua, who is from Tanzania. Unfortunately, because he lost his last fight, it doesn't count as a defence for Tommy. So it's just a fight, basically, taking place tomorrow night at Ponds Forge. Nonetheless, it'll be an exciting occasion. Still some tickets left, I believe, for that. And also, very quiet at the moment, but there's one really big story that I'm missing out, and it's your return to football management in winning style, Alan.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. I wasn't going to mention that.
Oh, I bet you weren't, yeah.
No, I was going to mention that. I'm 1 goal ahead on aggregate now because I was beaten 7-3 a year ago.
Okay.
This is the Reds v Blues charity, partly for the Sheffield Children's Hospital, Hillsborough Cadets. It's a great cause, worthy cause. They have an annual game in the middle of summer, the blazing heat. 7-3 beaten last year. Amazed to be retained as manager, along with Paul Smith,
Fantastic.
the ex-Sheffield Wednesday physio, and he and I were a winning team. So we won 7-2 this year, 7-2. So got the monkey.
Did you
off
milk
the
it?
back.
Did you go around? Did you kiss in the badge? You know, clapping the support.
Absolutely, yeah. I said to the players after the game that, you know, I said, Paul and I, we believe in giving players responsibility.
Yeah.
Had you lost today, you would have taken that responsibility. But as we've won, we're taking
yeah,
responsibility.
exactly, yeah.
But it threw up. It was fantastic. Against the Hillsborough club team, all the players, you know, put on a great show.
Yeah.
Both teams, I'm sure spectators enjoyed it. Refereed by Uriah Rennie. Alan Smith, the legendary ex-Sheffield Wednesday physio, was there presenting prizes. But it also threw up, you know, one of those amazing things that if I could only get the technology to tweet this, what you're about to see, it might go viral. I've got a headline on it, sort of, how did he miss? But you could also say, how did he save it? This is this charity game, the Reds v Blues at 11 versus the Hillsborough club. As I say, we won 7-2 in the end. But this was a pivotal moment because I think we were only leading 2-1 when this happened. Now, Hillsborough are in blue. They have a free kick. So watch what happens. You know, I think we're going to have to watch that again in a minute to gather our thoughts.
Yeah.
How on earth did that got go in the net, hit the post, comes back, striker's there. But before we show it again, I think that the goalkeeper, our goalkeeper,
Yeah.
Dean Mitchell, his name is, deserves a mention.
I think so, yeah. He was like a cat there. Like a cat.
But I mean, when the free kick was taken, he dived so far that he was outside the line of the post. He was prostrate. He got no hope. It fell to the striker right in front of the post, and crack. How on earth did this happen again? Just have a look.
That's a head in hands moment, that one, isn't
Charity
it?
game football, if I've ever seen it. Now, the striker who missed, he asked me not to be identified. So
Did he?
Yeah. So we've got no mention of him, but he took it in very good spirit. He was still red-faced at the end of the game. And I must say, thank the guy who supplied the video, who is Liam Sprosen. Thanks very much, Liam. And if I can work out a way of tweeting it, I think we might just get a few hits for that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Get it done.
If I could work out a way of tweeting it. Liam, if you're watching, if you could send it to me in another format, then I'll get it viral.
You'll go viral, Biggsy.
I'll get it viral.
Think of those clicks.
Right, Kieran, thanks so much indeed for coming in from
you.
deepest Cheshire. A Brighton supporter. You've had your controversies there as well, haven't you, with the sacking of a highly successful and very good man in Chris Hughton.
Yeah, without doubt, the nicest guy in the game. If anybody's ever spoken to him,
I have many times, yeah.
Even when we lose, he doesn't moan. He doesn't criticise referees or opposition players. He's an absolute gent. As a fan, the football was not pleasant at times, especially losing 5-0 at home to Bournemouth. I think that was probably the issue which triggered his sacking.
Yeah.
But we got a bottom three budget and we finished fourth from bottom and we got to the FA Cup semi-final.
Successful.
Now, that's mission accomplished in my view. So there were issues in terms of recruitment, but I think looking at the sort of us and Sheffield United, I think Billy Sharp could be the next Glenn Murray and do a similar job to Glenn in getting the 10 to 12 goals, which will keep you up.
Kieran, thanks so much indeed for coming. It's been brilliant, interesting. Thank you, James. On my YouTube channel later if you miss. See you next week. Bye-bye.